Law of demand doesn't mean that it's judiciary law, that is the Indian Penal Code. It is the demand that is related with the price. Here, hello, namaskar, sasrikal, vanakkam, salam. Today we are going to discuss about the law of demand. So, law of demand states that other things remain constant when price of the commodity increases, quantity demand decreases, and when price decreases, quantity demand increases. I repeat, the law of demand states that other things remain constant when price of the commodity increases, quantity demand decreases, and when price decreases, quantity demand increases. So this thing we got to know while we discussed about the determinants of demand. In determinants of demand, what discussed we there? There is an inverse relation between price and quantity demand. It means that when price increases, quantity demand decreases. So here in the law of demand also, when price increases, quantity demand decreases, and when price decreases, quantity demand increases. But here one thing, while I start from the beginning that other things remain constant while price increases, quantity demand decreases, and vice versa. But what are those other things that we have to keep constant? So here there is a Latin phrase that is called ceteris paribus. It means other things remain equal, other things remain constant. Then only if price increases, quantity demand decreases. Otherwise, it is not. So, what are those other things that you have to keep constant? This is the most important thing. Number one, price of substitute. Substitute remain constant. Number two, price of complementary goods remain constant. Let's discuss first these two things, that this must remain constant, then the law of demand will be applicable, otherwise not. What is? Price of substitute remain constant. Then only when price of that commodity increases, quantity demand will decrease. When price of the commodity decreases, quantity demand will increase. How? In the substitute goods there we discussed about two things, two substitute. One is tea, another is coffee. These two things are substitute to each other. Okay. Now here see, when the price of, as per the law of demand, when price of the commodity increases, quantity demand for tea will decrease. Okay. And when price of the tea decrease, quantity demand for tea will increase. But the price of coffee must remain constant. Then only. Otherwise, what will happen? You see, if the price of tea increases, and accordingly the price of coffee increases, the people who are consuming tea, they will stick to tea, they will never shift to the coffee. That is why if the price of coffee remain constant, then only if the price of tea increases, the people who are consuming tea, they will shift to coffee. Means with the increase in price of tea, demand for tea will decrease. So that is why it is only possible when price of coffee is constant. Opposite also we can discuss. Here you see, if the price of tea decreases, if the price of tea decreases, accordingly the price of coffee also decreases, then what will happen? The people who are consuming coffee, they will stick to coffee because the price of coffee also decreases. So that is why if the price of tea decreases and the price of coffee remain constant, then the demand for tea will increase. So that is why it is one of the important assumption. Actually, these are considered as assumptions. You have to assume all these things constant, then only the law of demand will be applicable, otherwise not. So here, let's discuss about the next, complementary goods. Price of complementary goods must remain constant. So in price of complementary goods, we discussed that complementary goods, take an example of complementary goods, say car and petrol. Car and petrol. So As per the law of demand, when price of the car increases, quantity demand for car will decrease. Or if the price of car decreases, quantity demand of car will increase. Now you see here, if the price of car increases and accordingly the price of petrol decreases, price of car increases and price of petrol decreases, in that case what will happen? People will buy same number of car or even more car, because buying a car is a one time investment and buying petrol is a recurring expenditure, every day you need. So that is why keeping the price of petrol constant, if the price of car will increase, demand for car will decrease, and if the price of car will decrease, demand will increase. But you have to keep price of petrol constant. So this is one thing. Now another one, number 3 assumptions, that is income of the consumer must remain constant. Income of the consumer must remain constant, because if the income of the consumer increases, accordingly the price increases, or if the price of the commodity increases and accordingly income of the consumer increases, so he will be in the same position, because as here the price increases, income also increases, he will buy the same commodity which he bought earlier. Now, so keeping the income of the consumer constant, if price increases, demand will decrease, because his income is constant. Now price increases, his purchasing power will be less, he will demand for less, and vice versa, opposite may also happen. And number 4th concept is that, 4th assumption is that taste, habits, and preferences of the consumer must remain constant. There should be same taste, same preference, same habit. Then only if price increases, demand will decrease. If price decreases, demand will increase. Because taste, habit and preference, if the preference got changes or taste got changes, in that case, if the price of the commodity decreases, still he will not buy more. Suppose, say young boys and girls of 17-18 years, they are having to wear jeans pant. Okay. Now, wearing that jeans pant, it is their habit or taste. Suddenly, suppose the new year is coming, they have taken a new resolution not to wear jeans pant, rather they are going to wear formal pants. So in that case, if in the month of January price of jeans pant decreases, still they are not going to buy more jeans pant, because they have changed their taste or their preference towards wearing formal pants. So this is the thing, it must be remain constant. And lastly, number 5 assumption is that uh, there should not be future expectation of change in price. It should not be like that in the month of January, in the new year, the price is going to fall more. Now, suppose now the year ending sale is going on, price of the commodity has been falling. So people will buy more, demand will be more. As prices fall, price falls, demand increases as per the law of demand. But when people expecting that in the month of January, ending of the January, the price of the commodity is going to fall more. Suppose presently it falls to 20%, and by the month of January it will fall 50%. So presently by falling the price of 20%, still people will not buying more, going to buy more, demand more. Rather they will wait for that month of January where price will fall by 50%. And that is why what happens? The law of demand will be not applicable because there is a future expectation. So there should not be any future expectation of change in price in near future. In that case, the law of demand will be applicable, otherwise not. And that is why again I repeat, the law of demand states that other things remain constant. That is ceteris paribus, the Latin phrase. Other things remain constant when price of the commodity increases, quantity demand decreases. And when price decreases, quantity demand increases. Now, what are the other things? Those other things are considered as assumptions. Assuming all these things constant, the law of demand will be applicable. What are those things? Number one, price of related goods, that is substitute and complementary, must remain constant. Number two, the price, the income of the consumer must remain constant. Number three, sorry, the price of the commodity goods remain constant, complementary goods remain constant, income of the consumer must remain constant, taste, habit and preferences of the consumer must remain constant, and there should not be any future expectation of change in price. So these are keeping constant, the law of demand will be applicable, otherwise not. And that is why these are the assumptions and these are the preconditions of the law of demand. So remember that law of demand, it is a concept based on some assumptions. So thank you, study well. The exam is coming nearby, and Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you. Love you all.